If you're working with someone who's over the resource limit for SSI or Medicaid, you have a few options to help them spend that money down below the limits in order to maintain the person's eligibility for services. NYSARC Trust Services administers pooled special needs trusts, and each year we help thousands of people with disabilities and qualifying adults protect funds in order to maintain their financial eligibility for means-tested government benefits. In this video, we'll explain how a NYSARC Community Trust can help the people you serve in these situations. We'll review common scenarios where you might consider using a trust, answer frequently asked questions, and demonstrate the unique advantages of this program, which can help the people you serve save time and money while maximizing trust funds to improve their quality of life. People with disabilities who receive supplemental security income and Medicaid benefits often have to spend down funds in their name in order to stay below the financial limits for these vital programs. This can make it challenging for people with disabilities to save money and plan for the future, because a single person receiving SSI benefits can never have more than $2,000 in their name. If the person only receives Medicaid services, they can have more money available to them because the financial limits for Medicaid are higher. But these limits can still be difficult to maintain when someone receives a large sum of money. This happens most commonly when a person receives money directly from a retroactive Social Security payment, an inheritance from a loved one, or a settlement award from a personal injury or medical malpractice lawsuit. A person may also have excess resources accruing on a regular basis due to unspent funds from Social Security survivors benefits or disabled adult child benefits, wages and unemployment benefits, and other windfalls of money such as lottery winnings or monetary gifts from family members. When a person is over the resource limit for one of these programs, the first thing to consider is whether you can appropriately spend the funds quickly on purchases of items and services that the person wants or needs, like adaptive equipment that's not covered by their benefits, or something recreational like taking a trip or paying for a person's admission to summer camp. An irrevocable pre-need funeral arrangement can be a great option when you're considering ways to spend down those funds. Another option would be to transfer the funds out of a person's name and deposit them into a vehicle that protects someone's eligibility for benefits, like a special needs trust, pooled trust, or ABLE account. NYSARC Community Trusts are irrevocable first-party pooled special needs trusts, also commonly known as supplemental needs trusts. These are called first-party trusts because it is a person with a disability's own money funding the trust. The funds in a pooled trust are managed by not-for-profit organizations like NYSARC for the benefit of a person with a disability known as the trust beneficiary. Pooled trusts are designed for people with disabilities to protect their financial eligibility for benefits without having to forego money or assets they're entitled to. By depositing those funds into a pooled trust, this allows people with disabilities to use that money to provide for future wants and needs that will improve a person's quality of life without causing a reduction or interruption in their services. And there are many advantages to choosing a pooled trust in these situations when you need to protect excess resources. Pooled trusts are quick and easy to establish with low minimum funding requirements, and the costs to set up and maintain the account are typically very low, making them a great option for any amount of money, but especially for modest sums of money. And pooled trusts do more than just protect a person's eligibility for these vital programs. Beneficiaries also receive the added benefit of working with a professionally trained trustee and investing their funds with a pool of other people who are also participating in the trust. Funds in the trust are pooled for investment and management purposes, which is how we maintain such low costs for our beneficiaries. However, each person you're working with will have their own subtrust account with NYSARC Trust Services, with a management board of trustees who provide oversight of trust distributions. So that gives the benefit of having a professionally trained organization who knows the rules of Social Security and Medicaid and has years of experience working with people with disabilities and protecting government benefits. Our knowledgeable team of representatives help guide the people we serve in making appropriate distributions, and we assist with the day-to-day management of assets in the trust. A financial institution appointed by NYSARC serves as a co-trustee to manage trust investments. Funds are invested using a balanced objective, and each beneficiary owns a pro rata share of the investments. This way, the funds have opportunity to grow, and that money can provide a greater financial benefit to the individual over time. Our co-trustee Key Private Bank provides the financial management and has more than 190 years of extensive fiduciary and wealth management experience. As trustees, we have a legal obligation and fiduciary responsibility to the beneficiary to protect that trust. This not only benefits the beneficiaries we serve, it provides peace of mind to their family members, relieving any concerns about selecting an appropriate trustee or worrying about who will care for their child when they can no longer support them financially. To create the trust, the beneficiary must complete and sign the joinder agreement, which is the application to join the trust, and have it notarized. Then attach some supporting documentation and fund the trust with a minimum of $300. If the beneficiary is unable to sign the joinder agreement, the account can be established by someone with the legal authority to sign and fund the trust on their behalf, such as a parent, grandparent, legal guardian, agent under power of attorney, or the court. A rep payee can also fund the trust exclusively with Social Security funds. Check out the flowchart in the resource section of our website to help guide you in determining who can establish and fund a trust in this situation, and contact us with questions. Because there are no age limits on using pooled trusts, someone of any age can establish a NYSARC Community Trust. However, depending on a person's benefits, there may be a penalty for transferring funds to a pooled trust or ABLE account after the individual is over the age of 65. For SSI recipients, the penalty is a maximum of 36 months, and it's calculated by dividing the total amount transferred by the amount of the person's monthly SSI payment. So if the person is receiving a large enough amount of money, it may still be in their best interest to deposit those funds into a trust. The money in the trust can then cover their basic needs while they wait out the penalty period. If the person you're working with is unable to sign the joinder agreement, or they're over the age of 65 and receiving SSI benefits, contact us to discuss their options before getting started with an application. A key goal of the trust is to preserve funds to protect a person's benefit eligibility and to provide the best quality of life possible by paying for goods and services that a person's benefits don't provide. So what that means is that the trust can't pay for the types of medical services that a person receives through Medicaid. Or if a person receives SSI, the money cannot be used to pay for food and housing expenses without impacting their SSI benefits. A good example would be when someone lives in a residential facility. Trust money cannot be used to pay for the services or basic needs that that facility is required to provide, like allowance for clothing and furniture. However, the trust can pay for items once someone's personal funds are exhausted, or contribute towards the cost of purchasing a special piece of furniture that a person would like. Distributions from the trust must also be for the primary benefit of the trust beneficiary. This means we can't buy gifts for other people, and distribution from the trust must be for items and services that are for that individual. However, the Social Security Administration does not expect people to live in isolation and recognizes that certain purchases may allow incidental benefits to third parties. For example, the trust could purchase a TV for a beneficiary. Their family or other residents in their home might watch that TV with them, but the purchase should be for their primary benefit. The trust typically would not purchase a TV for the living room of a residential facility. Beyond that, the money can be used for so many things. There are truly infinite ways to use the funds in a trust to benefit the individuals we serve. A lot of the times we're using it for uncovered medical expenses, such as assistive technologies and therapies that aren't covered by Medicaid. The trust can pay for care management, companionship services provided by a third-party agency if the person needs someone to accompany them to an appointment or medical procedure. And it can also be things that are purely life-enhancing, like travel and recreation, an iPad or computer for entertainment, tickets to a baseball game, or admission to an art or music class the individual would like to take. Really anything that for the specific individual is going to enhance their quality of life, so it's very unique to the individual. In order to protect a person's eligibility for benefits, the trust cannot give money to the individual directly or their spouse. This would undo the protection that the trust creates by making those funds available to them. For that reason, disbursements must be made payable to third parties, either to pay a business or to reimburse someone such as a family member or close friend who made a purchase for our beneficiary. The trust cannot reimburse the beneficiary, their spouse, or a person's legal guardian. All disbursements are made at the sole discretion of the trustees in accordance with federal and state guidelines. This is to ensure that distributions from the trust will not adversely impact someone's eligibility for public benefits. If you ever have a question about how to use the funds appropriately, or you're unsure if an expense is eligible for payment from the trust, give us a call and we'd be happy to assist you. NYSARC works closely with our beneficiaries, their family, guardians, and service providers to understand each person's individual needs. These individuals can be authorized on an account to have oversight and also assist with submitting disbursement requests. This gives families a way to be actively involved in their loved one's trust without having to take on the legal responsibility of serving as trustee. We also offer an easy-to-use online portal and an automated phone system where beneficiaries and authorized contacts can monitor trust account activity at their convenience. Once you're ready to begin using the funds in a trust account, you can submit a request to the trust for review. To submit disbursement requests, an authorized individual must complete and sign a disbursement request form and attach a bill in the beneficiary's name, a receipt, or other proof of payment for an expense that was incurred in the last 90 days. Disbursement requests are typically processed in a few business days as long as you provide all required documentation and no follow-up is needed. However, there are certain purchases that are more complex and they may take a little longer to process, like purchasing adaptive equipment or a vehicle, for example. Pooled trusts are irrevocable to protect a person's eligibility for benefits, but a person can opt out of using the trust. If there's a balance in the trust, that person can continue to submit requests during their lifetime to spend down the funds on eligible expenses. Upon the passing of the trust beneficiary under federal and New York State statute, NYSARC is required to close the trust account and no payments can be made out of the trust after the date of death. Any funds left in the trust at that time are typically retained by NYSARC Trust Services to provide services to people with disabilities served by chapters of the ARC New York. This provides our chapters with the means to offer unfunded programs and recreational opportunities to the people we serve and administer a nationally recognized corporate guardianship program. If NYSARC did not retain the funds, that money would typically go to repay the states that provided Medicaid services on behalf of the individual. However, we do have a program where a portion of the remaining money can go to residual beneficiaries if funds are left over after paying off the full amount of a person's Medicaid lien. We've covered a lot in this video, and we understand you probably have many questions, so please reach out to us. We also have a great resource section on our website at nysarctrustservices.org where you can get helpful information, watch other videos and trainings, and review frequently asked questions about our trust programs. There are so many factors to consider when a person receives money that could affect their eligibility for services. We encourage attorneys, providers, and families to look at all of the options available to them to protect a person's benefit eligibility. If you know someone in one of these situations and you want to discuss if a pooled trust would be a good fit, give us a call. We're here to be a resource to you, your staff, and the families you serve.